Excellent. You've lulled everyone into a false sense of security. I love it.
I have lulled everybody into a false sense of social security. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another exciting, nay thrilling episode of that album. I'm just trying to work out. Yeah, we are live. Great. And I'm joined by my good friend Sean Iomi, as it is today. And and today we're doing Master of Reality by Black Sabbath, which is a bit of a departure from the norm, perhaps, or so I thought.
Yeah, it's I think very hard when I choose an album to sort of expose to you, and so I've some of this is not some of the stuff I've chosen in the past is not necessarily stuff that I always listen to, but something I think I know you really like. Stuff I've liked, but this is an album that I genuinely really love. My first experience of my first concert was Black Sabbath. I was 12 years old in the Dusseldorf Philipshalle in Germany, and I went to see Black Sabbath and Diamond Head, and I had no idea what was going on. I went with Youth Club, and my music taste has been ruined ever since.
Not really though, because Black Sabbath is so heavy metal's not a genre that I've particularly invested a great deal of time in listening to. So I have, I'm familiar with all of the big songs from the big bands. So a little bit of Black Sabbath, a little bit of Motorhead, a little bit of these kind of bands from this sort of era. So I was quite surprised listening to this because it's not what I had anticipated.
Yeah,
I haven't. I'm obviously familiar with a couple of the songs from it, but it was not at all what I was expecting, and in many ways, I mean, the thing that struck me first about it was it's really short, isn't it?
Yes, it's not long. I used to bang out an album every 8 or 9 months during the early period of really amazing. They really are 6 songs. The Americans insisted on creating 2. The 2 musical interludes have now got names that they never used to have.
Yeah.
But there are 6 songs, and they're quite. Some of them are quite different. And there's all sorts of influences in there, which you wouldn't necessarily associate with, it's just heavy metal, isn't it?
Well, exactly. And that was one of the things that made me go, oh, that's interesting. But okay, so this 1971, interesting year, 1971.
I was born.
Oh, congratulations. Happy birthday. Open University started. The Barbican Centre was approved for development, my favourite building in the entire world. The Morris Marina was launched, not my favourite car in the entire world. Decimalisation. Yes. I remember the programme. First TV programme I remember was watching a programme on decimalisation.
Oh, right.
The Victoria line opened, and Blue Peter buried a time capsule to be opened in the year 2000.
Lovely.
And some interesting births. I didn't realise that you, obviously, a pinnacle of this.
Indeed.
So Gary Barlow, Patrick Keatley, Sonia, Amanda Holden, Melinda Messenger, Darren Brown, Rachel Weisz, Ewan McGregor, David Tennant, MF Doom, Liam Howlett, Martin Freeman, Richard. I mean, huge. And then some that are not so good. George Osborne and Chesney Hawkes springing to mind. Good year for films. Oh my God, great year for films. French Connection, Orange, Dirty Harry, The Andromeda Strain, Clute, Straw Dogs, Fiddler on the Roof, Get Carter, Diamonds Are Forever, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Vanishing Point, Steven Spielberg's first ever film, Duel. Good books, Day of the Jackal, The Exorcist and the Winds of War. But music, oh my God.
It's amazing. 71.
Anticipation, Nielsen Schmilson, Surf's Up, LA Woman, Imagine, Sticky Fingers, Tapestry, Led Zeppelin 4 that we've done on here, Blue that we've done on here, What's Going On that we've done on here, and Live at Fillmore East that we've done on here as well.
Oh, wow.
So it's been some mega albums.
Yeah.
So this Black Sabbath being your first ever Your first ever concert. Why this album?
That's a really good question, because you could say, well, you could do the first one.
Yeah.
Or you could do which Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath is a famous song. It's got the 2 or 3 real cracking songs on it, but there's a couple of like songs on it as well.
Yeah.
Paranoid, again, you've got that classic Paranoid and War Pigs.
Yeah.
Two great songs. But again, it's a bit there's stuff in the middle which is not necessarily as good. And then this is where they kind of change, and this is the peak, I think, of Tony Iommi's skills as a riff writer, and the riffs in it are incredible. They're just amazing, and the way they blend together. And it was after this that they got so popular that they all started basically doing so many drugs they didn't know which way was up, and it started the Volume 4 and Sabotage and things like that. The subsequent albums really drifted. There was still always a great 1 or 2 songs on here.
Yeah.
This one, I think, actually, there's some really, really good songs, and there's not a bad song on it. Personally, I like all of them, and so but I thought long and hard about which one I would choose.
Yeah.
And I went, do you know what? And because it's got Into the Void in, we had to listen to this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly it's a big hit with the fans because everybody's here. The audience are queuing out the door, aren't they? So that's very nice. But yeah, I mean, it was a very almost from the moment, and I'll metaphor this because I haven't got the album, not the album, but almost as soon as you put the needle in the groove, you go, that's interesting. And it wasn't at all like I was expecting it to be. And we've often said that when you prep for the show, you listen to the stuff in a very different way than if you just put it on and kind of bop along to it. And I thought there was a complexity to the album and a depth to the musical, the way that the chords progressed and the harmonies and everything that I was really not expecting. Like you said, it's just heavy metal, isn't it? That's what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And what I got was something which was very different from that.
And I think this is where the jazz influence, particularly of the rhythm section, really starts to come through. And you get Geezer Butler, who's a brilliant bass player. He does follow the guitar riff, but not always. And sometimes he's doing something completely different, a bit like John Entwistle, who's another amazing bass player. And then you've got Bill Ward with this amazing swing drumming, and the two of them are locked in together. And then you've got Iommi over the top, and then there's this madness called Ozzy. But one of there's a song on here where people really didn't think that Ozzy was singing it. And it's very, very, very different. You think, oh, okay, that's all right. I quite like that. And it shows off their talents. It really is, the virtuoso bit, because there were 4 guys from Aston and Birmingham, the industrial heartlands. Tony Iommi had lost his top of his finger.
Both fingers.
Yeah, but both fingers on his right hand. He's left-handed player, and he in an accident at work. Ozzy was a lunatic at work. He would put his face over the top of there was like an acid bath that he was dipping things into in this horrible factory in Birmingham. He'd stick his face in there to get high and all sorts of stuff. It was proper nutter.
Yeah.
And how on earth they managed to get and by this stage, as we know when we go into the first song, they've discovered some herbal remedies that they're rather keen on. But how on earth they managed to piece this together, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, remarkable. So this is the first album where Iommi down-tuned his guitar.
Yes,
and quite an interesting way. So for those of you, Sean is, but for those of you who aren't guitar players, the strings of the guitar are tuned up to a certain pitch. Well, go on, demo it, Sean.
So, hang on, I'll take that out. You might not be able to hear this. Can you hear that?
Yeah, we can.
All right, okay. So that's in standard tuning. What they basically, because he'd lost his first two fingers, or the tops of them, he found it very, and he fitted himself. He'd made himself some rubber prosthesis for his fingers, but it was very hard to play because this is quite stiff. And so what he decided to do was to detune. So basically, you can take it down from that, which is an E, and you loosen off the tuning peg at the top, and then you end up with it as a D, which is just, it means that it's slightly looser, it's easier to play, and less stressful on his fingers. What it meant was he created this new sound, which was very doom-ridden, and he created just a completely different sonic space. So he would detune all of the strings, so they would all still be in tune with one another, but they would be down. It was down tuned by 4 steps.
Yeah.
So 2 complete notes.
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it, how innovation being, or was it being the mother of innovation, and desperation, or whatever it is. Anyway, remarkable that changed the entire way that the band sounded.
Yeah.
As a direct result of him having to find a workaround for his injury. And that's kind of been, or that was the defining sound from then on, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And he found it much easier to play. It actually meant that he could do bends easier. And so, those soaring bends that he does in a lot of his solos were now easier to play. And it developed that kind of, they call it stoner metal or doom metal, that sound, which is slightly drony, it just has a percussiveness to it. And I've written a couple of notes on some of the things. It's really like you can imagine Sauron's hordes marching out Barad-dûr on it, and in a kind of Tolkien type way, because it has that. And you can imagine 1971. You're, what on earth is this?
Well, yeah. I mean, what's interesting is, and we see this sometimes, don't we? That it received very mixed and almost polarized critical reception. It was a successful album. So it got to number 5 in the UK albums and number 8 in the US Billboard 200. And it sold 4.8 million copies ultimately. But
it's slow start. It was a slow build, and then it went up and up.
Yeah, and it was interesting that it did split critical opinion, didn't it? With lots of people going, "No, what's this noise?" and some going, "Oh, this is fantastic. This is like a new dawn." But very interesting. But anyway, so shall we start?
Yes, let's go for it.
So first song, Sweet Leaf. Interesting start. I mean, great start to an album. I love the opening with the coughing, which the story. Sweet Leaf. It's a song about homage to cannabis, and apparently Ozzy gave Tony Iommi a huge joint, which he puffed on and started coughing, and that was what was recorded and used as the very start of this. Yeah, which is kind of. In many ways, it's quite charming, isn't it? It gives you a bit of a look behind the curtain for the band.
If I'm being honest, I think it's one of it's not my favorite song. I know they play it a lot, and it's one of the classic songs. It's not necessarily my favorite song on the album. The drumming's awesome, and how they mesh together is fantastic. And there's a great breakdown in the song. And yeah, just listen to the drums. If I'm going to do anything, you just listen to the drums. They're just superb.
So here we go, Sweet Leaf. mean, the thing that struck me from the very start was and I never thought I'd utter these words, what an amazing voice Ozzy Osbourne has.
He does, doesn't he? He's quite intriguing.
It is incredible. And the more you listen to it, the more you realize, I mean, you said about incredible drumming. I mean, it's so metronomic, absolutely spot on. Just a fantastic start. And it feels really planted, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It feels very kind of exact.
Yeah, and the drum fills are all absolutely spot on, and they fill the space, and they've got but the riffs have got enough rests in them to allow for those, for those drum fills to come in, and then the bass is playing something completely different. Which is not your standard heavy metal style, I can assure you. And he's like, oh, well, what's going on here? Just fantastic.
Yeah. Interestingly, the main riff is the outro to the Red Hot Chili Peppers' Give It Away Now.
I didn't know that.
It. Yeah. So now you'll never unhear that now. The riff has been used on a number of different songs. I didn't make a note of the others because that was the one that really jumped out to me. But yeah, I love a bit of the Peppers. But this absolutely fantastic start, and really interesting that we said the album is short. It's only 34 minutes. It's only got 8 tracks. 2 of the tracks are little filler lollipops. No, actually that's not fair because they're not. I'm not belittling them, but they're very short. One's only 30 seconds and one's only just over a minute and a half.
They're like musical interludes. They're like just a kind of, okay, we're going to take you somewhere different, and we're going to do, Tony was doing this and it sounded really cool, so we're going to just throw it in, which I thought was great. The writing, most of the songs, it's Iommi writes the riffs, but Geezer Butler, the bass player, writes most of the lyrics and does it really, really well. And so, Ozzy writes a little bit, and Bill Ward contributes, but it is that sort of Iommi skill set is just fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I can't, obviously I play the guitar for a bit of fun. I can't imagine what it must be like losing 2 of your fingers, 2 of your important fingers, and particularly, at the start of your career, because this happened before they'd made the big time.
Yeah. Well, it happened almost just before they were, it was really going to kick off. He'd already started playing. Interestingly, Tony Iommi was in Jethro Tull.
Was he?
Yeah, for about 3 weeks. And he's on I don't think he recorded anything with them, but he's certainly playing on a TV show. This is when he'd fallen out with Ozzy, just when they were still Earth, before they became Black Sabbath. And so I thought it was an interesting little Black Sabbath bon mot.
And very interesting about that, because later on, Iommi plays the flute, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah.
So I can only imagine what Jethro Tull with 2 flutes must have been like. So on to track 2, After Forever. Quite an interesting, almost like an early electronic beginning, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a kind of looped stuff going on, and they've got this kind of looped ethereal thing going on, which nowadays you do with a keyboard, but back then they I don't know how they made it. It transitions from a kind of spaced out feel, quite jolly and trippy in some ways, and then goes into this really heavy bridge, which I love, absolutely love it. It's one of those ones that you just want to bounce up and down again. And I love Ozzy's vocals in this.
In my notes it says, and this was kind of a bit at odds with what you would expect of the band. The band was often labelled as satanic. However, this has a surprisingly religious and Christian perspective to it, doesn't it?
Yes, and actually it was a falsehood that they were satanic. actually, yes, they were interested in the occult, and Mr. Crowley, and when Ozzy went off and did his own, he did one called Mr. Crowley, based on Dennis Crowley, the famous occultist. But a lot of the stuff was about defeating evil. It wasn't all about evil's great.
Yeah.
So it's not like Bathory or someone like a band like that, where it's all about wearing black and being satanic. It's not. It's intriguing that they ended up getting, and Iron Maiden's the same. You get pigeonholed.
Yeah, absolutely. So After Forever, the only thing I would say about this song was I found this a bit derivative of Paranoid.
Oh, okay.
So and I kept kind of thinking, oh, it's going to turn it. No, it isn't. Anyway, here we go. After Forever.
It's that 60s feel.
Yeah.
The riff is completely different.
Have you ever thought about your soul? Can it be saved? Or perhaps you think that when you're dead, you stay in your grave? Is Christ a thought within your head, or is it part of you? Is Christ a name that you read in the book when you were in school?
Absolutely, Ernie. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so full of life and energy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a really compelling, driving kind of sound.
And they found it quite easy to write, certainly in comparison when they went off to do Volume 4 and Sabotage and the later albums, when they were they were so paranoid from taking cocaine, they didn't know what was going on. Here it just flowed. That they were at the absolute peak. They were so young as well. They were only they were only very early 20s, and they were just churning out these songs. I don't know whether that was a 70s thing or what. It was just the sheer number of songs that they were creating, that real creative feel to it. There was just kind of, I've never experienced it. I've never actually written a song, but
nor me.
Just the ability to be able to write all these riffs. They're only using, there were only 9 notes. 12 if you there's only so many ways you can do it, but how on earth they could make all of these riffs work together is beyond me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that so when you're at school or learning music, you kind of think that it's written like those little videos that you see of Beethoven writing a symphony, where he's in a dark candlelit room with his quill and he's writing the notes down from his head. And then when you see the Get Back Beatles documentary, and you see them go into the studio with, like you said about Iommi and his riff writing, McCartney goes in with a riff and says, yeah, it's kind of like this. And then they all just kind of join in, and they're so in tune with one another that what comes out is, in many cases, almost the finished item. And they sort of make it up on the spot.
Yeah, and that ability to be able to riff with one another.
And that's kind of, I guess, that's kind of what's happening here. Where they're so in tune with one another that and they've got that sweet spot, and you see it with the best bands. You see it with the Fleetwood Macs and the Beatles, and where they come together and they just everything they do bounces ideas off each other and creates more stuff. And I love the fact that they're not in this album. They're not going to be pigeonholed. So the next track is like you couldn't get further from what we've just heard than this, could you? And this kind of reminds me of the whole sort of pentangle, John Renbourn, early English kind of lute music type.
And this is exactly what Richie Blackmore's been producing for the last 10 years, much to everyone's displeasure. But it's that it's that old English folksy tunes. But it's actually a really nice song. There's a Tudor feel to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I've written down here what WTF.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, it's only 28 seconds long, so we might as well listen to the whole thing. But it's a real interlude, and I think that part of the joy of this album is that the songs are so very different, but it's not like they're disjointed. It's not like as an album it's just a bunch of songs that have been dumped on a bit of vinyl. It's been well thought through, but it keeps the listener on their toes, doesn't it? I can only imagine what in 1971 this must have been like when you bought your copy of this, from Record House or HMV or whatever. You took it home and you put the needle in the groove, not knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
And then you were presented with this as the third track.
Yeah. And I must admit, I borrowed this album when I was 12, 13. I didn't really like it because I didn't really understand it, because it wasn't Iron Maiden, it wasn't Motorhead.
Yeah.
And I liked Black Sabbath, but it was different. Now I absolutely adore it. It's interesting how that, a little bit more education, my musical education, sort of grew, and I expanded my horizons a bit. Really clever. I love. I don't know if it's a key change. Well, there's something happens about 2/3 of the way through, and you go, "Oh, that's nice." Your ears go, "Oh, I like that."
Yeah. No, it is. It's a nice little interlude and a bit of a breather before, quite a heavy song, really, isn't it?
Well, this is probably one of their heaviest songs, and Ernie mentioned it, and he's absolutely right that this is the encore song. This is what gets the crowd going. Paranoid, yes, but when and I went to see. I've seen Black Sabbath 3 times. Back in '82, and I saw them in 2006, and then again 2014 during their last tour. The End, it was called, and when this plays, the whole place just erupts. And it's where detuning really works. And it brings alive. It's actually quite a simple song. Is the bass and the drums are doing something completely different, and the different riffs just merge into one another. And there's a bridge, which is what I've written. Really, is Sauron's hordes are marching.
Yeah.
Which is just
this
amazing.
is the only single from the album, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is the album version is 5 and a bit minutes long. There was a shorter version, 3 3¾ minutes.
Oh, is it? I've never heard the shorter version. I've only ever heard the long version.
Yeah, which is on the single, with the B-side being Solitude. Also,
yes.
This album. So here we go, Children of the Grave. great encore. Great encore.
Yeah, and it's just the bass line in that is amazing. That little sort of high, if it would be a C sharp. It's the C sharp he plays, that the higher register one at the end of that riff, it goes wee. It's just really interesting. It just kind of sets up the next bit, and it's really cleverly done. And he does that. That's what Iommi does that in a number of the riffs he's written. It just adds in a little bit of a higher pitch, a little bit of color, because otherwise it would be boring if it was just all.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's again one of the things that I have really enjoyed about listening to this album this week is that it feels very polished. One of the things that I can't abide is when bands sound like they're under rehearsed on something, particularly if they're cutting a record of it. So the fact that these guys are really tight and really together, I just think it should be table stakes, but it often isn't, particularly these days.
Yeah, I absolutely, and professional musicians, really should be. Well, I imagine if I played you a couple of albums, so the last one with Ozzy before he got sacked, Masters of Reality, you'd be going, oh yeah, they're not actually very rehearsed at all because they couldn't hold it together.
Yeah,
I think this was just like the perfect point. I'm not sure who the producer was. I've just seen here
of this.
Yeah,
it was. I've got a note of that. It was. Bear with me, caller.
Roger Bain.
Yes.
Yes. He did the first 3 albums. This is the last album. That's right. That's why I wanted to raise it. This is the last album he did with them, and then they all got a bit up their own backsides and went off to America and tried to do their own thing. And Iommi then took over the producing, which I don't think helped balance the band's demeanor.
No, and I think that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because often you see these people where they start to experience fame, and then they think they are too big for, we've outgrown you. And actually, particularly for the producer, if you've got a producer that you work with for these things, they're kind of part of the mix, aren't they? They're almost a member of the band.
Yeah,
they're helping to create the sound and decide what should go into the final edit and what shouldn't. And to kick them out is like you're changing the recipe. And it's not about the band not developing, but you see time and time again that the people that are in the back office, if you like, when those people change or die or whatever, then the band can often fall apart, can't it?
Yeah, you're right. And Iron Maiden had an amazing connection with their producer, whose name has just fallen out of my brain, and someone probably will pop on, who had also done Deep Purple, Machine Head, and they were absolutely a team. And when they got together from the first album all the way through, and it really they were just fantastic series of 7 albums where just every single one was a banger. And Martin Birch, and then Martin Birch retired, and it went a bit awry after that. But
I mean, it isn't even just that, is it? Because think what happened to the Beatles. They were a perfect unit, and they had huge creative freedom to be able to change. And then when Epstein died, it was like they basically just didn't have any direction after that. And it's often sad. But anyway, that's a Children of the Grave. Great way to end out the first half.
Yeah.
The only disappointment with this album is that it isn't just a little bit longer. Could do with an extra track on either side. It does feel that you're being not exactly shortchanged, but it does leave you wanting more, which I guess to a certain extent is a
good thing.
Yeah, because you're waiting for the next album. So you flip it over. Orchid, very much like Embryo, very short instrumental. a nice little interlude to key you up for. Well, we'll talk about what's going to key you up for, but you need a bit of a breather, don't you? Before
you do. You've just been pummeled, and then this is a good little break.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a great little song, piece, tune, and it's really nice because again, it's a departure from what has gone previously.
Yeah, it's not a copy of Embryo by any stretch. It's just a different feel. I can't even place it actually in terms of where I would put it in terms of a genre. It's personally,
it sounds almost like a sort of a Spanish guitar type. You know, it's
not. There's a bit.
Absolutely. But that kind of gives you a minute and a half to sort of catch your breath before Lord of This World.
Yeah,
being sung from the perspective of Satan.
Yes.
You know, so actually, this is pretty heavy stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. This is good.
So here we go, Lord of This World.
It sounds like Satan, doesn't it?
It does.
I love that change. That change is brilliant. Yeah, Andy, you're right.
You're searching for your mind, don't know where to start. Can't find the key to fit the lock on your heart. You think you know, but you are never quite sure. Your soul is ill, but you will not find a cure. Yeah.
Says in my notes here, the vocal delivery is particularly mournful and world-weary, perfectly suited to the song's dark narrative.
Yeah, and he does. I've got here. Yeah, his very ethereal vocals from Ozzy are absolutely perfect for it. There is a fantastic bit of the solo in here where you've got a guitar solo and a bass solo being played at the same time, which is really, really clever and bloody hard to do. Held together by Bill Ward's drumming. It's a clever song. This.
Let's see if we can find that, shall we?
Yeah. And it seems to fit. You know, when you write a solo, or you hear a solo, and it fits the song, and it's just part of the song. Perfect. And if it's not there, it feels like the song's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's one. You know, there are a number of them in this album where you go, "Oh, okay." There are a number of these albums that I've grown up with that. It's that bit you almost sing the guitar solo, and that's a skill. That's an amazing skill to be able to do that.
Yeah, and it's I think what's really interesting is that this was at the very the cutting edge of this kind of music. So quite unlike what had come before. And they're very much carving their own niche, aren't they? You know, it's not like they sound like, because actually they don't sound like anyone else.
And you've got Led Zeppelin are at the really starting to accelerate to their peak at this point.
Yep.
And they're sort of way ahead. And there was very much a snootiness that Led Zeppelin was proper music and Sabbath was just noise, which was unfair. And it's recognised.
Unfounded now. Listening to this album, I would, I've always loved Led Zeppelin, and I think the music is very, very sophisticated.
Yeah.
But this has surprised me with just how much depth there is to it. Again, an album of contrasts. The next track, Solitude, is just, it's really unexpected on the album, isn't it?
It is. I really like this.
Me too.
Really, really like this song.
I couldn't decide whether this. I couldn't decide whether I like this or Sweet Leaf best.
Okay.
Or possibly instead of Sweet Leaf, the last track.
Yeah.
The Void. But this track definitely one of the two best tracks on the album for me.
Yeah, and at some point they didn't think that Ozzy was singing. Bill Ward has confirmed that it was definitely Ozzy singing. And if you listen to the upgraded version, one of the remasters, you can just hear Ozzy, but he sings in a very different style. There's quite a prog psychedelic influence to it. There's a beautifully simple guitar solo, which is just fantastic. And there's a bit where there's a bit where he sings about lying and drinking is all that I do, and that is kind of mapped to another song called Fairies Wear Boots, which is about them on LSD.
Right.
Which is on, I think it's on Paranoid. And you hear it and go, I know, I've heard that lyric, and actually it's slightly different, but it's a clever sort of connection. Because this is written by, unusually, this is written by Ozzy, the lyrics.
Okay.
And it was about his solitude, feelings of solitude whilst on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we go, Solitude. I've just heard this. So it's like even when I'm doing the show, despite the fact I've been listening to this all week, it's just occurred to me now. This was obviously the inspiration for Golden Brown, the Stranglers.
Yes, I've seen that written before of the Stranglers. Yeah, very, very much like that, isn't it?
10 years. So I was just checking when Golden Brown came out, 1981. So it's 10 years for Golden Brown.
But that.
Very, very similar.
Yeah. There's the flute.
But saying, this is Tony playing the flute. Also, no distortion or anything on the guitar. Really, really clean sound. Again, quite unlike everything else on this. So it's a slow, gentle ballad with a bit of flute going on and a very clean, almost like a sort of Fender Tweed amp and Telecaster kind of 1950s sound going on. Just a total contrast to what else has gone before.
And the tones are fantastic.
Yeah.
Sunshine is far away, clouds linger on. everything I possess. Now they are gone. They are gone. They are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, where can I go to?
I mean, this song will be on my mixtapes from
Oh, fantastic! I'm so
because
glad.
it's something which is a real eyebrow raiser, isn't it?
Mm.
You know, so somebody will hear this and go, "Who's that?
Who's this? Yeah.
This is Black Sabbath." No,
Yeah.
surely it's exactly what like when Lemmy did the acoustic version of the Ace of Spades.
I love that. Yeah.
It's brilliant. It's far better than the original.
Yeah.
Because it's just so unexpected, isn't it?
Yes.
It's delight, and a similar kind of thing here. This is so out of keeping with what you would normally label the band with, and it's much more charming and shows a depth to the talent that often is you might not notice.
And the lyrics are actually really good. It's all about he's missing his then wife, and he feels lonely, and it's all about him on tour, which is a side of Ozzy, and this is his first wife, not Sharon.
Not who?
Sharon. Sharon. Sorry, I can't do a Brummie accent, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Beautiful. Which brings us on to the last track.
Yeah.
What a fantastic way to finish the album. What a fantastic way to finish the album.
This riff is the best ever. I love playing it. I adore playing it. It's not as complicated as it sounds, but oh my God, it's brilliant.
So this song was originally called
I don't know. Was it
Spanish Caravan?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen it on albums sometimes called Spanish Caravan. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, what can we say? Let's have a blast and then a chat. Says in my notes, often cited as one of Iommi's heaviest creations, and it is, isn't it? I mean, this is a real weighty thing, and I love again how, as a feel to the bass and the drums, it's kind of pulling back. There's always a risk with something like this that it'll start to accelerate and trip over itself, and you feel like it's kind of digging its heels in and pulling back, and I just love it. It adds to the weight of
you're right, because when the next bit kicks in, and this has got four, when I say the best riff ever, that first initial riff we just heard is the best riff ever, but there are some fantastic riffs in this sound. There's about four of them that are meshed beautifully together. When it changes and you think, okay, we're going to go into the verse, and it's like, whoa, what's just happened?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's have a bit of a blast of that. just a mega song. It's quite an admission from Jim there. So thanks, mate. Sweet Leaf Wolf, as he'll be known from now on. But really interesting comment from Andrew. Why do you think they didn't write more songs like that? It's a really good question, because it works so beautifully on this album, doesn't it, as a change of pace?
And actually, there are others on other albums. That it's not all bang and crash stuff. And Ozzy went on to do a number of great ballads and great sort of tuned down stuff that, or step back stuff that work really, really well. So that I know what you mean. It's the fact that people who are massively into metal will just normally go to the Children of the Grave or the Into the Voids.
Yeah.
I love that song. I love the changes in it. I love the way that it's constructed. How Ozzy can sing that, it's really hard. And he's actually got to articulate the words. That's not easy.
No.
And he does it brilliantly. And he has that kind of slightly nasally vocal works so well with the sound. And then you've got Geezer Butler's tone on his bass is because it's all he plays with his fingers, and you can hear that. And I like that type of bass playing. I prefer that than someone playing with a pick and just sort of not doing it. Again, it's a John Entwistle type approach to playing bass. Much more jazz influence.
I mean, this has been a fantastic album to look at this week, and it's fascinating how even if and this is not an album that I knew at all, really. Like I said, I knew some of the songs, but not the album. But when you kind of lift the hood and look underneath and see what's going on, it's really interesting to get into this and see and really listen to it with a critical ear and some of the things that are going on that are driving these statements that they're making musically. And it's been fantastic and a real eye opener.
Oh, good. I'm really pleased because as Andrew says, when choosing an album to sort of talk about amongst the LinkedIn community, and more importantly, can I impress Adam with my with my musical choices? There's a couple that I go, oh shit, I don't really, I want to, but will you like it?
I think one of the things that I've learned is that oftentimes it's the excitement, the passion that you have for it is the thing that opens the door to being able to listen to it, if you see what I mean. And it's lovely to hear the enthusiasm that everyone that comes on as a guest, it's like, okay, here's what I'm bringing, and I love this album I love it because of this. But next week,
what you got next week?
Next week we have something very different. So Jim is coming on, and we were going to do Carbon Based Life Forms, which is a band that he recently went and saw, and he said, I have to do this because but he said actually what he wants to do is he wants to bring a selection of tracks that are like, these are 10 tracks that have been really important for me.
I like that.
That's my musical development. So I'm really interested to see what he comes back with. He's going to put a list together over the weekend.
Okay.
And what he's going to come back with. And it will be fascinating to see how parallel or diverse that is from mine and yours and everyone else's musical journey. Because there are some things that and I was saying this to, where was I? I was in a shop, and there was some music playing in the background, and it's like, okay, this is one of those tracks that you just never, ever, ever could get away from when it was in the charts, and there would be like the Alanis Morissette's or Tracy Chapman's or whatever, where you'd go from one shop into the next, and the same song would be playing when you went into the second shop, and then you go somewhere else and it would be playing again. And literally this stuff was utterly ubiquitous at that time. And it'd be interesting to see what of Jim's stuff is that and what of it is like really niche, where there's only me and 3 other people that ever bought this album kind of thing. It'll be really interesting, I think.
I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to copy that at some point. I've got a couple of albums
Absolutely.
I want you to listen to first. But yeah, that would be really intriguing. My musical journey would be quite a.
Yeah, maybe the show should be called the musical ignorance of Adam. Maybe would be let's highlight the musical ignorance of Adam.
Yeah.
So, Sean, thank you so much, mate. What a
You're welcome.
fantastic show. Thank you to everybody in the audience for all of your input and for being our friends and co-presenters. And let's play out with a bit of solitude, because this song really does do it for me. So until next week.
Yeah, take care, everyone.
Soon.